Michael Thompson pushed through the door of the Smoky Mountain Diner in Asheville, his 6-year-old son Liam gripping his hand tightly. The bell above the door chimed, nearly drowned out by the clink of plates and a burst of chatter from a nearby booth. Liam stiffened, his small frame bracing against the noise. Michael steered him to a faded booth, his jaw clenched. Liam, who had never spoken, was sensitive to sounds, and the diner's bustle was already testing his limits. "It's okay, champ," Michael murmured. "We'll eat quick and head home." But the words felt empty, as they often did when Liam's world began to fray. Trouble struck swiftly. A sharp clang from the kitchen sent Liam into a tailspin. He let out a high-pitched wail, slid under the table and curled into a ball, hands flapping wildly. Michael dropped to his knees, trying to calm him, but Liam's cries only grew louder, drawing glances from regulars sipping their coffee. Michael felt the familiar ache of powerlessness, his hands useless above his son. Then a figure appeared beside them. Sarah Bennett, a waitress with a worn apron and gentle hazel eyes, knelt down. She moved with care, pulling a laminated card from her pocket, a hand-drawn star with peace written below it. "Hey, little guy," she said softly, her voice piercing Liam's chaos like a beacon. She held up the card, tapped it, and took a slow, deep breath. Hand on her heart. Liam's eyes fixed on the card, his movements slow. He mirrored her, his small chest heaving unsteadily. Within moments, he was sitting up, still shaky but no longer lost in turmoil. Michael stared, dumbfounded. No specialist, no therapy session had ever reached Liam like that, but awe quickly turned to bitterness. Who was this woman, stepping into his son's world uninvited? He stood, pulling Liam up. "What are you doing?" he snapped, sharper than he meant. Sarah blinked, surprised but calm. "I was helping," she said, rising slowly. "He was overwhelmed. I've seen it before." "You don't touch my son without asking," Michael shot back, his voice cold. The diner hushed, eyes turning. "You think you can just fix him? Feel sorry for the kid who can't talk?" Sarah's face flushed, but she held steady. "I wasn't feeling sorry for him, or you. I was speaking his language when you couldn't." The words stung like a slap. Michael's fists tightened, pride and fear clashing within him. "You don't know us," he said, his voice low and brittle. "You don't know anything." "I know he's scared," Sarah replied, unflinching. "And you're too angry to notice." Liam, clutching Sarah's card, looked up at his father, eyes wide. Those eyes stopped Michael from retorting. Instead, he grabbed Liam's hand, tossed a crumpled bill on the table, and headed for the door. "Let's go," he muttered, not looking back. Sarah watched them leave, her chest heavy. She knelt to pick up the card Liam had dropped, her fingers tracing the star. Her eyes stung as she thought of her younger sister Emma, who'd been like Liam, trapped in her own world until she passed away years ago. Sarah had made these cards for her, pouring love into every sketch. Now, scraping by in Asheville, sending every extra dollar to her family in Texas, she clung to small acts of kindness in a town that often felt cold. As she tucked the card away, a gruff voice cut through. "Watch out for that guy," a regular muttered loudly to his buddy. "She's one of those. Probably after his wallet." His friend smirked, nodding. "Always are." Sarah's shoulders tensed, but she kept her head down, wiping the counter with trembling hands. She was used to the whispers, the glares that trailed her in this town. Being an outsider in Asheville wasn't easy. Every day was a fight to belong. But she wouldn't let their words break her, not when she'd seen the spark in Liam's eyes, even if his father couldn't. Michael buckled Liam into the car, his mind churning. He told himself he was right to snap. No one had the right to interfere, not when he'd spent years crafting a safe world for his son. But as he glanced at Liam in the rearview mirror, clutching the memory of that card, a small guilt took root. Sarah had done what he couldn't, and Liam, for the first time in ages, had looked at someone with something like trust. He shook his head, starting the engine. It didn't matter. They wouldn't return. Liam didn't need a stranger's help, and Michael didn't need anyone questioning his role as a father. Yet as they pulled away, Liam pressed his hand against the window, staring at the diner's faded sign, and Michael felt a pang he couldn't name, a mix of shame, fear, and the faint pull of hope. Michael couldn't shake the image of Liam's hand pressed against the car window, his eyes locked on the Smoky Mountain Diner as they drove off. It wasn't just a glance. Liam's gaze held a quiet longing, something Michael hadn't seen in his son before. Liam, who rarely connected with anyone, had found something in Sarah's calm presence, and it ate at Michael. He told himself it was nothing, that he was enough for his son, but the truth grew harder to ignore. At home, Liam's routines persisted, lining up toy cars in neat rows, humming soft, wordless tunes. But something had changed. He began scribbling on bits of paper, shaky drawings of a woman with light hair and a star pinned to her shirt. One night, Michael found Liam clutching one of these sketches, his fingers tracing the lines as if they held a secret. "What's this, champ?" Michael asked, kneeling beside him. Liam didn't respond, but his eyes flickered with a rare joy, a glimpse into a world Michael struggled to reach. The drawings weren't the only clue. Whenever they drove through town, Liam's head turned toward the diner, his body leaning forward as if willing the car to stop. Michael tried distractions, new puzzles, trips to the creek, but Liam's spark dimmed without Sarah. Michael felt it too, a growing unease that he'd closed off something vital. He hated needing help, admitting he couldn't do it all, but Liam's quiet yearning was louder than his pride. One morning, Michael made a choice. He buckled Liam into the car and drove back to the diner, his pulse racing. The bell jingled as they stepped inside, Liam's hand tight in his. Sarah was behind the counter polishing a coffee pot, her movements tired but precise. She looked up, her expression cautious as she recognized them. Michael cleared his throat, feeling every eye in the diner. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice low. Sarah paused, then nodded, pointing to an empty booth. Liam slid in beside Michael, his eyes on Sarah with unmistakable hope. Michael forced himself to meet her gaze. "I was wrong," he said, the words rough but true. "What you did for Liam, I shouldn't have lashed out. He hasn't been the same since." He swallowed hard. "I'm asking if you'd help him. Come to our place. Teach him like you did. Please." Sarah's eyes softened, but her arms stayed crossed, a shield against the world. "Why me?" she asked, not accusing, just curious. "You don't even know me." Michael glanced at Liam, who was rocking slightly, humming softly. "Because he trusts you," he said, simply. "And I've never seen him trust anyone like that." For a moment, Sarah said nothing, her thoughts drifting to her sister Emma. She'd spent years helping Emma navigate her silent world, crafting cards to bridge the gap. When Emma died, part of Sarah died too, leaving her adrift in a town that often saw her as less. Helping Liam felt like a way to honor Emma's memory, to do something good in a heavy life. "Okay," she said finally, "for him." The first visit was tense. Michael lingered in the doorway of his cozy living room, watching as Sarah sat cross-legged with Liam. She'd brought a stack of laminated cards and a tattered notebook of hand-drawn signs. "This one means friend," she said, showing Liam a card with 2 linked hands. She signed it slowly, her smile warm. Liam stared, then copied her, his small hands awkward but eager. Sarah clapped softly. "Perfect, Liam. You're a star." Liam's face glowed, and he signed friend again, looking right at Sarah. Her breath caught, tears welling in her eyes. She blinked them away, but not before Michael saw. Their eyes met, and he felt a strange mix of gratitude and awe. This woman, a stranger, had unlocked a piece of his son's world in a way he never could. As Sarah packed up, Michael recalled a coworker's voice from the diner when he'd picked her up. "You're nuts, Sarah," the woman had said. "Working for a guy like that? People like us don't get trusted. They'll think you're after something." Sarah had shrugged it off, but her tight smile showed the hurt. Michael didn't know her story, but he knew the whispers that followed her, calling her that outsider with a sneer. It twisted his gut, but he pushed it aside. This was about Liam, not her struggles. Not yet. When Sarah left, Liam stood at the window, watching her car fade. Michael knelt beside him, ruffling his son's hair. "You like her, don't you?" he said softly. Liam didn't answer, but his small smile said enough. For the first time in years, Michael felt a crack in the walls he'd built around them. It scared him, but he couldn't deny it. Sarah was changing their world, whether he was ready or not. Yep. Sarah's visits became the pulse of Michael and Liam Thompson's quiet home. Every Saturday, she arrived at their Asheville house, her canvas bag brimming with cards, markers, and a notebook worn from use. Her presence brought a warmth Michael hadn't known was missing, a softness that filled the stark corners of their rigid world. Liam, once trapped in his silent routines, began to flourish under her patient care, and Michael found himself torn between gratitude and a growing unease at how much they relied on her. Sarah worked with Liam on the living room floor, her voice steady and kind. She taught new signs, home, happy, pairing them with drawings and soft tunes from her childhood. Liam responded in ways Michael had never seen. He pointed at cards, his fingers trembling with effort, and even tried sounds, his face tight with focus. One day, Sarah drew a house on a whiteboard, with a lopsided roof and a bright sun. "This is home," she said, signing the word. Liam tapped the drawing twice, then gave her a shy grin. Michael, watching from the kitchen, felt his throat tighten. It was the first time Liam had grasped something so abstract. Sarah's methods were simple but intentional, rooted in her years with her sister Emma. She never hurried Liam, never raised her voice, and celebrated every step with a clap or a beaming smile. When Liam signed happy correctly, Sarah laughed and tossed a handful of confetti made from torn paper. Liam giggled, his rare laughter filling the house. Michael stepped in, unable to stay distant. "Show me," he said, voice gruff but curious. Sarah handed him a card, guiding his hands through the sign. Liam watched, then grabbed Michael's sleeve, signing "happy" again, as if to include him. For a moment the three were linked, their laughter blending in a way that felt like family. These moments weren't just for Liam. Michael, who'd guarded his heart for years, felt it soften. One evening as Sarah packed up, Liam tugged her hand and gave her a drawing, a wobbly sketch of 3 stick figures under a star, labeled "Home" in shaky letters. Sarah's eyes welled up and she knelt to hug him. "This is beautiful, Liam," she whispered. Michael, nearby, felt a pang in his chest. He'd built a life for Liam, but Sarah was giving it color. The realization was both a gift and a wound. He was thankful, but it hurt to see someone else reach his son so easily. Yet Sarah's life outside their home was a struggle. At the Smoky Mountain Diner, her hours were cut, the manager citing customer complaints about her demeanor. Michael overheard the truth when he picked her up one day. A patron had griped about that Texas girl being too slow, and the manager, eager to avoid fuss, had sidelined Sarah. She didn't tell Michael, but he saw the weariness in her eyes, the way she gripped her bag tighter when leaving the diner. He wanted to speak up, to help, but he held back, unsure of his role. This was about Liam, he told himself, not her battles, but the lie felt weaker every day. The prejudice Sarah faced wasn't just at work. Whispers followed her in town, snide remarks about outsiders taking jobs, or people like her not fitting in. One day, as Michael and Liam waited for her outside the diner, a man in a baseball cap muttered to his friend, "She's probably scamming that rich guy. They always do." Michael's fists clenched, but Liam's small hand in his kept him steady. He didn't confront the man, but the words lingered, a reminder of the world Sarah faced alone. At home, their bond grew. One afternoon, Sarah brought a small ukulele, strumming a lullaby she'd sung to Emma. Liam swayed to the music, then reached to touch the strings, his face bright with wonder. Michael joined them, sitting on the floor, and for an hour, they were just 3 people making something beautiful. When Liam fell asleep against Sarah's shoulder, Michael met her gaze. "You're good at this," he said quietly, "not just with him, with everything." Sarah smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "It's what I know," she said softly. "But it's not always enough." She didn't explain, and Michael didn't press, but her words stayed with him. He was starting to see her, not just as Liam's teacher, but as a woman carrying a weight he couldn't fully understand. As Sarah left that day, Liam stood at the window, waving until her car vanished. Michael watched his son, then looked at the drawing of the 3 stick figures on the fridge. For the first time, he wondered if home could mean more than just him and Liam. The thought scared him, but it also felt like a door opening, letting in a light he hadn't dared to hope for. The fragile warmth in Michael and Liam Thompson's home unraveled with a single email. Rachel, Michael's older sister, had always been wary, her caution honed by years of watching Michael raise Liam alone. She'd never warmed to Sarah, her doubts fed by Asheville's murmurs about outsiders. When Sarah's visits became central to Liam's life, Rachel's suspicions deepened. She hired an investigator, certain Sarah had hidden motives. The result was a brief, devastating audio clip. Sarah's voice, cold and unfamiliar, saying words that would shatter everything. Michael sat in his study, the house silent except for Liam's soft humming nearby. Rachel's email had arrived that morning, titled, "Listen to this." He clicked the file and Sarah's voice filled the room, sharp and strange. "He's got money," she said, with a light laugh. "If I play this right, I could be set." The words hit like a blow, stealing his breath. Michael replayed it, each time tightening the knot in his chest. Was it all a lie? The drawings, the laughter, the way Liam's eyes glowed when Sarah arrived? He thought of the stick figures on the fridge, "Home," scrawled in Liam's shaky hand, and felt betrayal burn through him. He didn't sleep that night. When Sarah arrived for her next visit, Michael was a taut wire, his face a mask of barely contained fury. Liam ran to her, signing "friend" with eager hands, but Michael's voice sliced through. "We need to talk," he said, pointing to the kitchen. Sarah frowned, sensing the shift, but followed, her bag still over her shoulder. Liam stayed in the living room, clutching a card Sarah had given him, unaware of the storm. Michael shut the kitchen door and faced her, hands shaking. "I trusted you," he said, voice low and raw. "I let you into our lives, and this is what you do?" He pulled out his phone and played the clip. The audio crackled, Sarah's voice echoing, "If I play this right, I could be set." Her face paled, eyes wide with shock. "Where did you get that?" she whispered, voice trembling. "Does it matter?" Michael snapped. "Was it ever about Liam, or just my money? Tell me the truth, Sarah." Sarah gripped the counter, knuckles white. "It's not what you think," she said, desperation rising. "That's not me, not like that." "Then explain it," Michael shouted. "Because right now, it looks like you used my son to get to me. My son, Sarah. Do you know what that means?" Tears filled Sarah's eyes, but she held them back. "You think I'd use Liam?" she choked. "You think I could? Everything I've done, every card, every sign, was for him, because he's like my sister was, because I know what it's like to feel unseen." Her voice broke and she looked away, shoulders shaking. "I thought you saw me, but you're just like them." The words hit Michael hard, but his anger drowned out doubt. "You need to leave," he said, cold and final. "Now." Liam slipped into the kitchen, face creased with worry. He tugged Sarah's sleeve, signing "friend" frantically. Sarah knelt, heart breaking. "You're so strong, Liam," she whispered, voice cracking. "Don't ever forget that." She kissed his forehead, tears spilling, and stood, grabbing her bag. Liam whimpered, reaching for her, but Michael stepped between them, jaw set. Sarah faced him one last time, eyes filled with piercing hurt. "I thought you were different," she said softly, "but you see only what you're afraid to see." She walked out, the door clicking shut behind her. The house felt empty without her. Liam ran to the window, hands pressed against the glass, body shaking with silent sobs. "Say," he signed, a word he'd learned from Sarah's cards, pleading for her to stay. Michael knelt beside him, trying to hold him, but Liam pushed away, eyes fixed on the empty driveway. Michael's chest ached. The seed of prejudice had taken root, blinding him. He'd protected Liam, hadn't he? But as Liam's whimpers filled the silence, Michael felt a truth he couldn't escape. He'd broken something precious, and he wasn't sure he could mend it. The days after Sarah's departure were a quiet ruin in the Thompson home. Liam retreated into a shell Michael hadn't seen since his son's earliest years. The boy who had begun to sign home and laugh freely now sat by the window, clutching Sarah's tattered notebook of signs. His fingers traced the pages, but he refused to sign or meet Michael's eyes. The stick figure drawing of their makeshift family stayed on the fridge, a painful reminder of what Michael had destroyed. He tried everything, favorite snacks, new games, soft words, but Liam's silence was louder than ever, a rebuke Michael felt deeply. At night, Michael lay awake, haunted by Sarah's final words, "You see only what you're afraid to see." Her face, etched with heartbreak, lingered alongside Liam's frantic signing of friend as she left. He'd been so sure he was protecting his son, but the truth was clear. He'd let fear and prejudice cloud his judgment, and Liam was suffering for it. The audio clip looped in his mind, Sarah's voice twisted into something cruel. But the more he replayed it, the less it matched the woman who'd taught Liam with a patience Michael could never match. A week later, a new email from Rachel arrived, titled "Full Audio." Michael's heart sank as he opened it. Attached was a longer recording, sent by a regretful co-worker of Sarah's, who'd overheard Rachel's investigator. With trembling hands, Michael hit play. Sarah's voice came through, warm and weary, in a conversation at the diner. "It's not about the money," she said firmly. "It's about Liam. He's so bright, you know? When he signs something new, it's like, I'm helping my sister again." Her voice softened, thick with emotion. "I'd never hurt that boy, or his dad. They're good people, even if they don't trust me." The co-worker laughed. "Still, he's rich. You could be sad if you play it right." Sarah's reply was sharp. "Money doesn't fix what they're going through. It doesn't fix what I've lost. I just want to help him shine." The recording ended, and Michael sat frozen, his mistake crashing over him. Sarah hadn't betrayed them. He had betrayed her, and worse, he'd betrayed Liam's trust. Anger and shame drove him to confront Rachel. He called her, voice shaking with fury. "You manipulated me," he said. "You twisted her words because of what? Your prejudice? Your fear?" Rachel stammered an apology, but it was empty. Michael hung up, his resolve firm. He had to find Sarah. He had to make this right. For Liam, for her, for the family they'd almost been. Michael packed a small bag, grabbed Sarah's notebook, and buckled Liam into the car. They drove through Asheville, stopping at every diner and café, asking for a woman with light hair and a kind smile. Most shook their heads, but at a cozy bakery on the town's outskirts, a cashier nodded. "Sarah? She's in the back, wiping tables." Michael's heart pounded as he led Liam inside, the scent of fresh bread grounding him. Sarah looked up from a table, her apron stained, her face tired. When she saw Liam, her eyes widened and a soft gasp escaped. Liam let go of Michael's hand and ran to her, signing home with desperate clarity. Sarah dropped to her knees, tears streaming as she pulled him into a hug. "Oh, Liam," she whispered, voice breaking, "I missed you." Michael approached, throat tight. "Sarah," he said, voice raw. "I was wrong. About everything." He held out the notebook, hands shaking. "I heard the real recording. I know what you said, what you meant. I let fear blind me, and I hurt you. I hurt him. I'm so sorry." Sarah stood, still holding Liam's hand, her eyes searching his. "You believed the worst of me," she said, voice steady but pained. "Because of who I am. Because people like me are always suspects." Michael flinched, the truth cutting deep. "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared of losing him, of trusting someone. But that's no excuse. You gave him a voice, Sarah. You gave us hope. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try." Sarah looked at Liam, who clung to her, signing friend again. Her resolve softened, but her voice stayed firm. "I forgive you," she said, "but trust takes time. For me, for him." Michael nodded, relief and guilt mingling. "I'll earn it," he promised, "whatever it takes." Sarah's lips curved into a small, weary smile. She'd been let go from the diner, she admitted, after more complaints about her background. The bakery was temporary, a lifeline in a town that kept pushing her out. Michael wanted to help, but Sarah shook her head. "I'll stand on my own," she said. "Always have." As they left, Liam waved, and Michael knew this was just the start. They'd lost something precious, but maybe they could rebuild stronger, truer, together. Yeah. The bakery reunion was a fragile new beginning for Michael, Liam, and Sarah, but it was far from a perfect resolution. Trust, as Sarah had said, took time, and the scars of misunderstanding lingered. Yet, in the weeks that followed, a quiet resolve grew in Michael. He couldn't erase the pain he'd caused, but he could build something better, for Liam, for Sarah, and for the bond they were slowly mending. Asheville, with its misty mountains and undercurrent of bias, became the stage for a journey of healing and quiet defiance. Michael started small, inviting Sarah to their home, not as a teacher, but as a partner in Liam's world. She came cautiously, her bag lighter, but her warmth unchanged. Liam greeted her with a clumsy sign for home, his face glowing with joy that pierced Michael's heart. Sarah sat with him on the living room floor, guiding his hands through new signs, her laughter soft and real. Michael joined them, no longer standing apart but sitting close, learning beside him. The moments were simple, drawing, signing, love, sharing quiet smiles. But they wove a thread of connection, stronger than before. Sarah's life, though, remained a struggle. The bakery job was shaky and the diner's firing had left her scrambling. She confided in Michael one evening, her voice steady but worn. "They said I didn't connect with customers," she said, eyes on Liam as he arranged blocks. "But I heard what they meant. I'm too different." Michael's jaw tightened. He'd heard the same murmurs in town, snide comments about outsiders and troublemakers. The unfairness burned, and for the first time, he saw Sarah's strength not just as kindness, but as resistance against a world that tried to dim her. Moved by her courage, Michael suggested a bold idea. "What if you could do what you love?" he asked. "A space for kids like Liam where you could teach, create, be you." Sarah frowned, wary of handouts, but Michael pressed on. "I'll help with the funds, but it's your vision, your name. I'm just supporting you." After days of thought, Sarah agreed. Driven by a dream she'd buried since losing Emma, they found a small, weathered building in Asheville, and Starlight Haven was born. A center for children with special needs, where Sarah's cards and signs became beacons of hope. Building the center was no easy task. Some locals resisted, grumbling about outsiders leading community efforts. At a town hall, a man in a denim jacket stood, voice sharp. "Why's she running it? We don't need her kind taking over." Michael, who'd stayed silent too long, stood up, voice steady. "Her kind? You mean someone who's given my son a voice? Someone who's fought harder than anyone here to belong?" "Sarah's the best thing this town's got." The room quieted, and though tension lingered, a few parents nodded, their own children's struggles echoing Liam's. It was a small win, but it mattered. Liam blossomed at Starlight Haven. He began to speak simple words: Sarah, home, love, each one a miracle that brought tears to Michael's eyes. One evening, during a picnic under the Blue Ridge Mountains, Liam toddled over, clutching a dandelion. He looked at Sarah, then Michael, and said, "Love," his voice clear and sure. Sarah gasped, dropping to her knees, and Michael joined her, pulling Liam into a hug. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she whispered, "You're my hero, Liam." Michael met her gaze, his heart full. In that moment, they were a family, not bound by vows, but by something deeper, messier, truer. Sarah gave Michael a new card that day, a hand-drawn star with family in her careful script. "This is us," she said softly, eyes shining. Michael held it, throat tight, knowing it was more than a gift. It was a promise, a reminder of what they'd fought for. Their home grew richer, not with things, but with life. They moved into a cozy house near the center, where Liam's laughter filled the rooms. Sarah faced ongoing challenges, funding woes, lingering prejudice, but she stood tall, backed by Michael and a growing circle of parents whose children found refuge at Starlight Haven. Michael changed too, speaking out against the town's biases, using his voice to lift Sarah's work, not overshadow it. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Blue Ridge Mountains, the three sat on a hill, Liam asleep between them. The sky glowed orange, then faded to deep blue, a single shooting star streaking across it. Sarah pointed, her voice a whisper. "A wish," she said. Michael nodded, his arm around her. "Whatever comes," he murmured, "we hold on to this." Sarah brushed her fingers through Liam's hair. "Our messy, beautiful family," she said, voice thick with emotion. Michael closed his eyes, the truth sinking deep. They'd been broken, lost, but love, stubborn, imperfect love, had stitched them back together. The road ahead wasn't easy, but they'd walk it together, fighting for a world where Liam could shine, where Sarah could belong, where they could all be home. But the story didn't end there. Months later, Starlight Haven faced a new threat, a developer's plan to buy the land and turn it into condos. The community rallied, parents and children gathering at town hall, holding signs with Sarah's hand-drawn stars. Liam, now braver, stood beside Sarah, signing home to the crowd. Michael spoke, his voice steady but fierce, calling out the greed that threatened their... Sarah, once hesitant to lead, found her voice, sharing Emma's story and her dream for kids like Liam. The council voted to protect the land, and cheers erupted, Liam's small hands clapping wildly. As they left the hall, Sarah squeezed Michael's hand, her eyes bright. "We did it," she said, voice trembling with pride. Liam tugged at her sleeve, signing love, and the three walked into the Asheville night, stars above them. Their family, forged through pain and redemption, was a light no one could dim, a testament to love's power to heal, to fight, to endure.